Hi, and welcome to This Reader's Life. My name's Stephanie. I'm glad that you stopped by, and I am back from last week. I was talking about genre jumping, and I'm going to kind of get right into it because I've got quite a few, and I want to say as much as I can about each one without giving anything away. So I read 3 books last week, which is kind of a lot for me. In 7 days for me to read 3 books. I sort of have a tendency to read one at a time, especially if it's a longer book. I tend to stay with it so that I can remember the story, so I don't get things mixed up. But this week I read 3 different books, and I did do some of that genre jumping like I was been threatening to do. And the first one that I read was Fahrenheit 451, which so many people have read that it's required reading in a lot of high school classrooms and college reading, even junior high reading. I think we were supposed to read it in junior high, and I'm not quite sure why I didn't. I was a good student, so I don't know why I wouldn't, but I did not like science fiction, and I did not want to read it. Fahrenheit 451, it was written in 1953. Ray Bradbury, he has lots of, he's a prolific writer, and a lot of dystopian science fiction type stories. I've never read him at all. This one is, of course, about burning books. The main character in it is Guy Montag. He is a fireman, and in Fahrenheit 451, firemen do not put out fires. There is no need for that because almost everything is fireproof because we've advanced so far as the science fiction part of it goes. And so his job is to burn books. Books have become illegal. Knowledge is suppressed in a pretty big way in this novel. War is always imminent. The whole idea is for everyone to be happy and to have fun. But knowledge and books are just not allowed. It's too stressful for people, is what the general attitude seems to kind of be. Most people don't seem to miss it because they have television that covers 3 or 4 walls in their homes. They have extremely fast cars that can go whenever they want. Kids play constantly. They drive around in their fast cars, and I like the story that it talks about billboards have to be made so that they go on along the road for a long period of space, because cars go so fast they would just flash past them if they didn't make them long enough that they could actually see it as they drive by it. I loved that part. Sometimes I feel like my whole life feels that way sometimes. But anyway, Guy Montag is putting out fires with kerosene when as a fireman, they have, they still have a fireman's pole, but I believe that it's automated. They have, the dog that is at the firehouse is a robot dog, if you can imagine how interesting that is. This is a pretty wicked robot dog. It's got 8 legs and can inject you with something that kills you immediately. So on his way home one night, he meets a girl who is very young, who wants to talk about nature. She's just chatty, which is sort of unusual. People don't spend a lot of time talking to each other. They spend more time with their little seashells in their ears, which is how they can listen to media and watching their in their television parlors, watching their televisions, which are very brightly colored and interactive. But she's very nature-like. She's sort of a free spirit, and she asks Guy Montag, "Are you happy?" And he kind of laughs at her and he says, "Yeah, sure, I'm happy." And she's a new neighbor, and he tells her to go home. She shows up a few times, and then she just sort of disappears. So Guy has to go to burn some books. He gets a call as a fireman, and the firemen go there, and it's a little unusual in that there's still a woman in the house, and she's an old lady, and normally all the people have already been removed when they come to burn the books and burn the home. But in this case, she stands on the porch and kills herself. And it makes a big impact on Guy. He's already wondering, am I really happy? And now this has happened. He has taken a book out of the house, slid it under his arm. It turns out to be the Bible. He has stolen a few other books that he's hidden, and so he's really questioning the whole idea of suppressing knowledge and whether or not people are happy. He knows that his wife, who is supposedly thrilled with her life and thrilled with her television family, she takes too many sleeping pills and has to have her stomach pumped. There's things like that. So he gets caught with the books. His boss comes to the fire chief, or the non-fire chief, whatever you want to call him. He comes to Guy's house. It turns out that he's been turned in by his wife for the books, and he has shown them to her, trying to get her to understand why it's a problem. And at that point, things become very chaotic, and Montag goes on a quest to see if there's a way to stop from continuing to suppress knowledge. And he encounters, it is a quest, and he encounters sort of a mentor, and then meets up with some other people. But at any rate, it was well written. I won't go through the entire story. I told you a lot there. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. So I did not love this book. I thought it was written fine. I understood the story. I don't care for Ray Bradbury's writing. Again, there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just didn't love it. So I think I'm in the minority there, and I guess it's just where I am on that one. So the next one that I read, that I certainly don't feel the same way about, is it was an epistolary memoir by Helene, Hanff, which is 84 Charing Cross Road, and I adored this book. Again, it's epistolary. It was published in 1970, but the letters that are passed between Helene Hanff and Frank Doel are so delightful. It's a correspondence that begins with Helene when she writes to 84 Charing Cross Road, which is in London, to a bookstore requesting a book. And she is a New Yorker who just has a wonderful personality. She's a good writer. She actually was a script writer for Ellery Queen television shows. So that was sort of her job, but she collected books and she loved books and she wanted the good ones. So she was writing to them and sending them the money for it. She sent cash, and they suggest to her that maybe that's not the best way to do it. And she tells them, I'm not walking down, I don't know, all the way to 74th Street or whatever it is to get a money order or whatever, or cashier's check. So I'm sending cash. She's also she also sends them rations, things that are rationed in England or in London because they're still rebuilding from World War II. They still have rationing, and so she sends them things like dried eggs and fresh eggs, and at one point she sends them a ham. But the relationship that develops between her and Frank is just lovely. It is not a romance, it's not a romantic relationship at all, but it's a love story. And so I recommend it for anyone who enjoys a truly good story and good writing and great humor. It's a good story. I really, really enjoyed it. I adored this book, and I am excited to read the sequel, which is The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. And I don't believe Bloomsbury Road. Bloomsbury Street. The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. I'm sorry. It is the sequel. I don't believe that it's epistolary. I don't know really very much about it, except for it's about her visit to London, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Like I said, I don't really know what it's about, but I'm very, very anxious to read it. The next book that I read was a Christian book, which is, again, it's outside of my normal genre. However, I'm a Christian, and this was a reread for me. It's one I read. I read it around the time that it was published, I think in 2003 or 2004. It's by Donald Miller. It's called Blue Like Jazz, the subtitle is Non-Religious Thoughts on Christian Spirituality. So non-religious thoughts on Christian spirituality. And it's a very, very good book, especially if you're a Christian, but I think anyone could read it. It did spend some time on the New York Times bestseller list. It is, it's memoir, and it is essays. A lot of it is essays that Donald Miller wrote about sort of his journey to Christianity and his growth as a Christian and things that he's learned along the way, about how hard it is. And it's well written. He's got a wonderful sense of humor. He's very self-deprecating. He's single, so talks some about dating, but he also talks about spirituality in that it's very, very individual, and it's also communal, and that it's not about, but it's, no matter what, it's not about religion. I think that's what he's trying to say. It's not about being religious per se. It's not about a denomination. It's about a relationship with God and with Jesus, and that it's both personal and it's also communal, because we need people. God loves people and expects us to love each other, and so you need people, and when you're in this world, having other people that you can get together with and talk about your spirituality is important. So that's part of what he talks about in this book. I liked it very much. I would recommend it. And I know that he has some other novels. My sister recommended this one to me for 84 Charing Cross Road. It was Jen at Jen's Reading Life that convinced me to read this book. She made me want to read it so bad, because I knew she loved it so much, and I respect her channel quite a bit, and so I enjoy watching it a lot. And Helene Hanff was easily one of her favorites, so I couldn't wait to read it, because I thought if she liked it, I'm going to like it too. I could just tell. So that was exciting to read that book, and thank you very much, Miss Janet, Jen's Reading Life, because it made a difference in my life. So that is what I'm reading right now. Those were the three that I've read. What I'm reading right now is Montana, 1948. I'm getting about maybe a third of the way through it. It's written by Larry Watson. It is, I'm guessing it's going to be sort of a coming of age story, although I don't know that for a fact. The story is narrated by a young boy named David, who's about 12 years old. He and his parents live in a small town in Montana, and his father is the sheriff, and he's a sheriff that doesn't carry his gun, and he doesn't wear his badge, and it just drives his son crazy, because he wants it to be Wild Wild West, and it's just not. It's a small town in Montana that is not in the mountains. It is flatlands, prairie land, and with some rivers that run through it. And I know that his father is the sheriff. His uncle is the doctor in town. He has a Native American housekeeper or babysitter at the house who becomes ill. And the doctor, his uncle, comes to visit and says that she has pneumonia. And that's really as far as I've gotten in the book. And I know that there is some kind of a scandal, and I do not know what it is, but when I finish it, I will talk just a little bit more about it. But I really have enjoyed this book so far. It's so, it's well written, and that makes and it feels like a good story to me. I want to know what happens next, which is, to me, a lot of times that's what it's all about, is wanting to immerse yourself in the story and to be able to relate to it. So, for my to-be-reads, I do have a few things in mind. Actually, I have so many in mind that it's scary. And I have a lot. You can look at my Goodreads if you want to follow me that way. I have a lot of to-be-reads on my Goodreads. But again, in my quest for genre jumping, I want to read something that is science fiction, and I truly, truly want to love it. And right now, I don't know what that book is going to be. So I hope that it turns out that I can find one. So I asked a friend who writes. I'm in a writing group, and I asked a friend who writes what he would recommend. I respect what he writes himself, and for a writing group, I really enjoy that. So I sort of trust him on this, and he told me a good place to start might be Neuromancer, which I know nothing about except for that it was written by William Gibson, and it's sort of futuristic, and it's definitely science fiction. So that's what I know about it. So if anybody knows that book and has any guidance or suggestions, it certainly won't hurt my feelings if you could tell me, yeah, read it, or I wouldn't bother. I'm curious to know what other people think. I also am curious if anybody has any other ideas for science fiction, and also for fantasy. I'm looking, romantasy, fantasy, dark fantasy. There's all kinds of different subgenres, and I don't know enough about it to even know what I'm looking for at this point. So, but I do want to read some fantasy for sure. And after Tolkien, I don't know anybody, and I have not read that. So, but that's a big big thing to take on. The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. It's a lot to take on if you're not a fantasy reader, I think. So I'm curious about that. A couple of my to-be-reads. I'm trying to read back, and I'm trying to pick some things that are not bestsellers, and that maybe weren't even ever bestsellers, but that are truly good stories and good books to read. So some of these recommendations are things that I'm trying and hoping to be able to recommend are from a little bit further back, and one is The Ivy Tree by Mary Stuart that I've decided to read. It was published in 1961. It's romantic suspense. Mary Stuart was a prolific writer, I know that, and she wrote a lot of romantic suspense. Sometimes I think it had just a little bit of magical realism to it, but I know that she wrote romantic suspense. I read a few when I was in high school, or maybe a little later than that. And so the Ivy Tree is about a woman from Canada who goes to the English countryside, and I don't know why she goes yet, but I know that there is a case of mistaken identity, and she's accused of being someone that she is simply not, and that she claims not to be. So that might be kind of interesting. We'll see. Mary Stuart also wrote 3 books that are now called, I think, the Merlin trilogy, and I believe those are fantasy. And if anybody, I think the first one's called The Crystal Cave, and one of them might be called These Hollow Hills, and that one might be a fantasy book that I would try starting with. And if anyone has read any of those, I'd be very interested to know what you think about those. I'm definitely looking for suggestions, because it's hard to know where to go other than Goodreads, and there's so much out there that I would love individuals who just say, this is what I think, and build those connections that way. I think it's a good way to go. The other thing that I'm reading right now is Buckeye, which is a current literary fiction novel that I say I'm reading. I've barely started it. So it's on my to-be-reads, and it was published in 2025. Patrick Ryan wrote it, and I don't know very much about it other than that the main character, or the first character that I've met up with, so to speak, is Cal, who is a young man at the time of World War II who has some kind of a deformity or problem with his hip, and he is not able to be drafted or join the service to help the Allies for World War II, and he's disappointed about that. I believe but anyway, I know that part. I know that he is going to end up married to a young woman who is mildly clairvoyant, and that there is another family, and that this is sort of a generational story. So that's what I know about Buckeye, and when I've read more, I will certainly let y'all know about it. And so those are the ones that I have for now. Again, I'm looking for suggestions for anything outside of contemporary literary fiction or historical fiction that anyone would suggest outside of my normal genres. And so I'll be doing that. I want to, I would like to put 2 videos a week out. Right now I'm putting out one, and I am going to go back to doing some writing, and so I don't know if that will impact my time to do videos, but I'm hoping to do 2 per week. I'm hoping to do more tags. I'm hoping to be tagged. But anyway, that's where I stand right now. I hope that you're enjoying this. Again, like and subscribe if you'd like. And until we talk again, please remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to the planet. Y'all take care. Bye-bye now.